Hello and welcome to Internship Week. My name is Jan Potsman. I'm an assistant director at the Career Center, and I oversee internships, hence Internship Week. We have a special partner on the line here who will be presenting about micro-internships, and we have partnered with them. I think it's been about a year, a little over a year, to offer micro-internships at the Career Center. And our illustrious speaker is Danielle Ryger-Morowski. I know that's not right.
Close enough.
Danielle is a graduate of Baldwin Wallace University's Digital Media and Design program at Kent State University's Master of High and at Kent State University's Master of Higher Education program. She joined the Parker Dewey team in early 2022 after 5 years of working in career services at multiple higher education institutions. She enjoys gardening, illustrating children's books, volunteering at her local animal shelter, and helping students get paid professional experience via micro-internships. I'd like to welcome Danielle. Thank you for being here today. Ryger-Morowski. Okay, we are launching our poll, so please, if you will answer the poll, we love to have your information and feedback.
All right, and while you are filling out that poll, I will go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for that welcome. I'm excited to be here today and to talk to all of you about micro-internships. Now, if you are the kind of folks that like to follow along, I'm going to put the link for this page in the chat. Let me just scoot this back up right here so we can have you looking at it as we go along. 1 second. Oh, didn't let me grab it. 1 more second here. And I'm going to grab it and putting that in the chat so you can follow along if you want to create an account while we talk about this. So already kind of introduced, but I am here to talk about the paid professional opportunities known as micro-internships. So as I start this conversation, I would love to hear from some of you in the chat because as mentioned, I worked in career services before I joined the Parker Dewey team. And I worked with so many students that had amazing skills and talents and abilities, but for one reason or another, they were struggling to secure traditional internship opportunities. So what I'd love to hear from you in the chat is, what if any challenges are you facing? Are you maybe struggling with finding transportation? Are you struggling with finding internship opportunities in your location? Are you applying to opportunities, but maybe not hearing back? Are you having trouble fitting opportunities into your schedule? These are just a few opportunities or a few examples of some of the struggles that folks face when they are trying to find experiential learning opportunities. And what you can see on the screen, I'm not going to read them out loud to you, but these are examples of some of the students that when they came to Parker Dewey, some of the challenges they were facing when they were trying to find experiential learning opportunities. Thank you to those who are participating in the chat. You can see entertainment sector is competitive, definitely. Time commitment while studying, that's a big one, especially if you're kind of in a space where you are exploring careers. It can be tough to commit a whole semester to something when you maybe realize 1 or 2 weeks in, oh, this was actually not it for me. And then having trouble getting started and applying also can be a hurdle. So the good news is micro-internships helps address a lot of these issues, and we're going to dig into how. So I've heard the term or used the term micro-internships a couple of times. Before we go any further, I'm going to clarify what exactly is a micro-internship so we can dig into how they help address these issues. One, it's short term. So as opposed to spending an entire semester working on something, especially if you're not sure if that's actually the industry you want to go in, a micro internship is project focused. So a company will determine a specific project that they need done, and that is the micro internship. It's about the project that gets finished as opposed to a duration of time. Now, we typically tend to see that these projects take somewhere to 10 to 40 hours, but there's nothing magic about those numbers. Sometimes we'll see bigger projects, sometimes we'll see very small projects, but it gives you an opportunity to kind of dip your toe into a company or industry and give something a try, a little bite-sized try, if you will. The other thing about micro internships that I really love, and I imagine you all are going to love too, I didn't see this in the chat, but it tends to be something that is a barrier, is that all of the opportunities on Parker Dewey, and that's the platform where we house micro internships, are paid, because I know that some students can't afford to take unpaid opportunities. Whatever you're doing with your time currently, whether it's working an on-campus job or working some other form of job, I know you can't just quit that to be able to take an unpaid opportunity. So having paid opportunities is key. So these opportunities are not only paid, but they are paid fairly. You are paid for the project that you complete. These are also all professional projects. Now, if you are looking for places to, I'm looking for someone to paint my fence or someone to walk my dog, those kinds of side projects, there are plenty of other sites out there, and there's nothing wrong with those, but those aren't the kind of projects that you're going to find on Parker Dewey. On Parker Dewey, you're going to find the same types of projects that you would be working on if you were a traditional intern, or if you were maybe even a new full-time hire. The only difference is you're going to be working on this project in an isolated way, specifically that project, as opposed to having to commit to that longer term opportunity. Thank you again to those who are contributing still in the chat. Being a student athlete, we're going to have some specific stories we'll share where micro internships fit very well into a student athlete schedule. Again, competitive fields and wanting to explore different fields. Hopefully you're already getting an idea, but micro internships are a great way to do that because you get to try different things. The other accessibility thing is the vast majority of micro internships are remote. So no matter where you are, you can access these opportunities. And we really do see, I've seen a couple of industries be mentioned, entertainment, consulting. We really do see projects from just about every industry, every department. So these are just a few examples of some of our most commonly seen industries, but like I just said, we really do see projects from just about every type of industry and department. So want to go ahead and start digging into what the platform actually looks like. But before we do that, in case it wasn't already clear, just want to reiterate some of those benefits that hopefully came across when I was describing what micro internships are. So one, that accessibility. Again, the vast majority of these are remote, so you can do them from anywhere. You get the experience. When you do a micro internship, you will be connected directly with a company, so that gets to be put on your resume. Although Parker Dewey is actually your employer of record, so you'll be putting on your resume that you're an independent consultant of Parker Dewey, but you get that experience. The flexibility, since these are project-based, it's not you have to show up to this specific place at this specific time. It's you have a project and you have a deadline. So you get to work on it when your schedule allows. Again, since you are connecting directly with the company, you're getting to expand your network, which is so unbelievably valuable. We already had someone say in the chat and talked a little bit about the career exploration. You could potentially even do multiple micro internships in one semester, and we have had students do that. And the ability to build that resume, and depending on your industry, your portfolio. We've had a graphic design student who has done like 18 micro internships and essentially gotten paid to build her portfolio. And while it's never guaranteed, there are companies that are using this as a way to audition talent for longer term roles, in some cases, full-time roles. So there's the possibility of that longer term engagement and obviously the benefit of pay. So who can complete these micro internships? As long as you're 18 years old, you can be a student or an alumni. So if you're getting ready to graduate and you're thinking, okay, this is something I would be interested in, can I still do this? Yes, you can still use micro internships to explore if that's your situation after you graduate. International students, as long as they have appropriate work authorization, can also do micro internships, as can undocumented students, as long as they have a valid ITIN number. So lots of options for who can engage in these opportunities. I know I saw in the chat that there is an international student athlete. So as long as you have appropriate work authorization, you can engage in these opportunities too. And now we've got the what, the who, the how, all those good details. I want to dig deeper into that how. So I want you to understand as we do that, exactly what Parker Dewey's role is. So I mentioned before that you will be an independent contractor of Parker Dewey in these roles. And we do that to make life easier for all of the companies that we work with. So we take on that HR, the legal, the payroll. So the company gets the benefit of working directly with you, but we take care of all of that other stuff. So the other things we're doing is working in the background to make sure that these projects are appropriate. And when we're making sure the projects are appropriate for Parker Dewey, we're really asking ourselves two questions. And those questions are, is this project professional? Is it the same type of project that these students would encounter at a traditional internship or a full-time role? And two, is it paid fairly? So we're here in the background as a source of support to do all that legal, payroll, all that good stuff, and to make sure that these opportunities are going to be a benefit to you. So hopefully you're thinking, all right, I see the benefit, let's get to it. And again, if you want to follow along as we walk through how the platform actually works, here is the link for you to go ahead and get started. I would recommend going ahead and creating your account today or logging in again today if you already have an account. So the first thing we're going to want to do is create that profile. So I am actually going to go ahead and log in because I have an existing Parker Dewey profile. I internally have too many Parker Dewey accounts open, so let me get into my student one. But what you all are going to do is going to go to this Apply for Micro-internships button right there, and it's going to encourage you to sign up for Parker Dewey. So again, since I already have an account, I'm going to hop over to where I am already signed in. And you are going to want to make sure that you completely fill out your profile. Now, when you are creating your account for the first time, it's going to walk you through these steps, perhaps in a little bit different of an order. But when you log in again in the future, this is what you are going to see. So it does not take a lot of time to set up your Parker Dewey profile, typically less than 10 minutes. And there's not a lot that we require before you get started looking at opportunities. Some of the things we do require are your current location and your hometown. And these pieces are required because, as mentioned, there are some companies that are using micro-internships as a way to audition talent for either a traditional internship or maybe even a full-time role. So it's helpful for them to know if this student does an outstanding job on this micro-internship and I have an in-person role later, are they physically, geographically able to come in for that role? So that's why we require that information. The other piece we require is you're going to want to put in your education. Because we have some schools or some opportunities that will feature projects specifically to your institution. So by having your education, that means if there is a project that is exclusively available to your school, you will be able to see that project. So that is why education is required. We also require demographics. Now, I want to make it clear, companies are not able to see this. This is never visible to them, but part of our goal at Parker Dewey is to make the college to career gap more accessible, more equitable. So having this information allows us to know how well we're doing at our job. You do have the option to prefer not to disclose, but I want to say again, this really helps us to know how well we're doing at creating opportunity for maybe some of you who are from groups that are historically underrepresented in the workforce to be able to get access to these opportunities. Now, there are certainly other sections that we encourage you to fill out that are going to help you stand out, but those are really the things that you need to fill out to be able to start looking at these opportunities. So we can see here, I went ahead and put Northridge in. You can see there's a featured project. So anything that is featured to you is going to show up here at the top. And I would recommend taking a serious look at those projects first, because the fact that they are in featured means that there's something about your profile, whether it's your educational institution or an affiliation you have, that means not everybody's getting to see this, but you are. If you are looking through projects and you see something that is of interest to you, like if you're saying, okay, I'm kind of interested in grant writing, I want to learn more about what this project is, it's very easy to hit that details button You're going to see the anticipated start date for the project. This is when the company is planning for it to kick off. You're going to see when they intend for the project to be finished or when they need it by. Now, some companies, you're going to see this is going to be a very tight turnaround. They're looking for on-demand, getting it done quickly. Other companies, you're going to see maybe they have a little bit of time. Every once in a while, you will see a start date that perhaps is past. As long as you can see the project, that means it is still available and worth your time to apply. It just means that their initial plans when they posted the project for when it was going to get started didn't quite happen. So still worth it, even if this was in the past, if this is a project of interest, to apply. I see a question in the chat. Should we fill out the personal statement box on our profile? Yes, you should. And I'm going to come back to that when I get to best practices. But short answer is, Lily, yes, you should fill out that personal statement. Right here on the left, you'll also see whether this project is on-site or remote. Now, as I mentioned before, the vast majority of these projects are going to be remote because that's part of our goal of making these projects accessible. But every once in a while, we'll have a project that just by its nature has to be in person. And if that's the case, you'll get that information right there. And then what you see here is how much you will be paid if you complete the project, if you're selected for and complete the project. So once you've looked at those details, once you've looked at the description, if you're going, okay, I am very interested in this opportunity, I would like to apply, you click this button. And this is a pretty standard application, what you see here, and this is the entirety of the application. So not only is it easy for you to make your profile, again, we kind of walked through it, very simple. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. But this, again, is the entirety of the application. Now, you're always going to see this question, why do you think we should select you for this opportunity? And then any other additional questions are going to be up to the company, whether they ask additional questions at all, and if they do, what those questions may be. And different companies will handle this in different ways. Some companies will look at the responses that they get and they'll say, okay, we like Cameron, we're picking Cameron, and that'll be it. Other companies will look at the responses and say, okay, we like Denise, let's interview Denise to make sure that it's the right fit, and then we'll go from there. Other companies still will pick their top 3 applicants and then maybe interview those and then make a decision. But the reason I tell you this is to make it clear, some companies will make their decision based entirely on their short answer responses. So these might be your only chance to make an impression. So while you don't necessarily need to put a lot of time, you do want to make sure you put thought into these responses and make sure that you proofread them. That's a fantastic question from Samantha. How much should we write in these boxes? And the answer is however much you need to write to answer the question thoughtfully. And we have some tips to make sure that you are doing this well. So with that, I'm going to jump back to my presentation. I'm going to review some of the profile things, but then I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into those short answer responses. So I see your question, Samantha, and I'm going to dig into it deeper. I see a question, can international students with student visa get micro-internship? It depends on the details of the student visa. As long as you are authorized to work in the United States on Parker Dewey end, since we are the employers of record, we will do what we can. When it comes to international students, sometimes the individual student situation can be unique. So we're happy to, if you want to reach out one-on-one to help look into your situation, but we also recommend reaching out to your international student services because they are also able to help you figure that out as well. All right, I am going to review these and then I'm going to jump back to the questions in the chat because I see we're seeing some more. All right, so we have reviewed the steps for creating an account, why education and location are important. We talked about those demographics. Now, something we did not talk about was affiliations, because we have partnerships not only with educational institutions like California State Northridge, but also with a variety of nonprofit partners that have various workplace goals. So I would recommend checking out these partners. I'll put this link in the chat if you want to take a look. 1 second while I find everyone here. There we go. So there's that link if you want to take a look. If any of these organizations are of interest or perhaps something you already qualify for, each of these is a link. You can look into those. And if you do qualify, you can add those affiliations to your profile. And that's a benefit because just like companies can feature projects to specific educational institutions, sometimes we will see companies feature projects exclusively to students who are part of these nonprofit organizations. So that's something else that you will want to consider when you look at your profile. I'm going to jump back here. That affiliation section is right here on that first page. Now, if you want to make updates to your profile, what you just saw me do is how you're going to go about doing that. You can go back and forth between your dashboard and your profile by clicking Hi Name up in the right-hand corner once you've logged in. And we've got some of those tips for success. So like I said before about that personal statement, want to make sure that we're reviewing the things that are going to help your profile stand out, because what we just reviewed are the things you need to start looking at opportunities, but there are additional steps you're going to want to take to make your chances of being selected for a project higher. So one of those is to upload a professional picture with your account. The other is to craft a concise personal statement that reflects some of your strengths and goals. So going back to that personal statement, we can see that example here. I am a formula person. I don't know if other people out there appreciate formulas, but I typically do the formula that is adjectives. So I'm going to put this formula in the chat. So adjectives plus a strength or an asset, and then a goal. So in this case, we've got some adjectives, and you want to make sure these are relevant to the types of projects you're interested in. So in this case, if I'm looking for marketing opportunities, being able to organize different assets, being able to work quickly, having goals, these are all things that are relevant to the types of projects I'm interested in. So that's why I have these three adjectives. So I'm an organized, efficient, ambitious marketing major. And then here I've got an asset or a strength with a passion for social media. And then we've got our goal, seeking to help companies create content and engage customers. So I would love to see some folks from the chat. If you want to reflect on this, what are some adjectives? What are some strengths and assets and some goals? Take your time as I'm going through, but I would love to see some personal statements get thrown in there. I'm going to take a quick minute now to jump back to some of these questions. I see a question asking if we have no experience, would these opportunities still train us while doing the internships? Great question. And it depends on the goals of the company. Some companies are using these micro-internships saying, okay, I have a project that needs done. Why not have a student or recent graduate do it? And they're just looking for that on-demand project support, somebody who knows what they're doing. Other companies are using micro-internships as a way to expand their talent pipeline, to kind of have talent who is aware of them, to build their company brand, to have talent when they graduate who's saying, I want to work for this company. And those companies are a little bit more willing to coach, a little bit more willing to teach, because that is in line with their goals. And typically, you're going to be able to get an idea of what kind of company or what kind of goals that company has based on the description. So if we go back to the dashboard, let's take a look. Talent sourcing, this project will support an experienced recruiter. So in this case, by saying it's going to support an experienced recruiter, that wording tells me, okay, this is going to be helping someone else. There's going to be someone that's going to be very clearly guiding. So this is someone that I could potentially be a little bit more of a learning opportunity. So hopefully that answers that question well. For the international students, we need to apply for OTP with the details of the company. Yes, that is true. I think that's more of a statement than a question. Would we receive training once getting these projects? And I think I just kind of clarified that. So we are caught up with questions, going to jump back into some of these tips for success best practices. Now, unlike some other platforms for early career finding opportunities, companies are not able to see your profile unless you apply for their project. But once you apply, they will be able to see it. You can get an idea of what your profile looks like to companies by going to Profile and Preview. So when you are looking at your profile, if you're saying, there's not a lot here, I don't know if I would consider myself, that says, okay, maybe you want to think about going through and adding some more details. So let's talk about some of those best practices. In the experience section, we encourage you to include experiences that are relevant to the projects of interest. And for a lot of folks, a micro-internship might be your first professional experience. And I want to make it very, very clear, that is a-okay. The folks on the platform are not expecting you to come to Parker Dewey with tons and tons of experience. In fact, we recently had a webinar that was specifically micro-internships for first and second year students, where we had a recruiter from a company talk about why they like to use micro micro-internships to engage first and second year students, and the fact that they understand that you're not going to have a lot, if any, professional experience. So the types of things you can put here are, what types of projects have you done in class? Have you done any passion projects? What types of volunteer experience? Are you involved in extracurricular activities on campus? And what types of accomplishments or projects have you done with them? It doesn't have to be internships. So just want to make that very clear. If you wish to add an additional experience, which you can, you just hit this add experience and you can add as many as you like. Now, in this resume section on Parker Dewey, you can only upload one resume. So you don't have to spend your time customizing your resume for every single opportunity, which is a great practice for other internships. I want to make that very clear. It's a great practice, but on Parker Dewey, it's not a necessity. You want to make sure that you upload a resume that is going to have wide appeal for whatever types of projects you might be interested in. And then in this section, you can also indicate your availability for other types of work. So if you're interested in internships or longer term engagements, this is also potentially helpful for the company to know as they consider which students, especially if they're using the project as a way to find longer term talent. If you're not open to a longer term engagement, they might know you're not a good fit for that role because that's their goal. This is also where you can add a website link, social media, LinkedIn, what have you, just other ways for that company to get to know you. And finally, the document section, while not required, if you have any projects that you've done in your classes, like if you are a public relations major and you did a press release and you want them to see an example of your work, or if you are in design and you want them to see some examples of your skills, this is a place where you can upload some files to showcase those things as well. And we have some more tips for success in our Career Launcher tutorial. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat as well. But even when doing all of these tips for success, still rather simple to get that profile set up. And the nice thing is that a profile is attached to all of your applications. So you're not having to put that information in for every single project you've applied for. And I don't know how many of you have started applying for internships, but oh my goodness, is that arduous. So we're saving you some time. So we talked about how to look at the different micro-internships and apply. We talked about how to find that crucial information. When are they intending for it to kick off? Roughly how many hours would it be? Whether it's on-site or remote? What kind of skills they're looking for? And then here we're getting back. I know it was quite a while ago when I said we were going to get back to those short answer responses, but here is where we're getting back to those best practices for those short answer responses. And a reminder, some companies are going to be making their hiring decisions based entirely on these responses. So again, you're not writing the great American novel. It doesn't need to be deeply time consuming, but you do want to make sure that you are putting thought into these. So what we have here are some examples and resources for short answer responses. So not only do we have a blog post that I'm going to share with you all that shares what you should think about when you are answering a short answer application. What are they really trying to get to? How can you give them specific examples? Those kind of things. But we also have specific examples of short answer responses that were submitted, those that were selected for projects, as well as those, I'm going to make this just a little bit smaller so you can see my comments on the side, as well as real short answer responses that were submitted that were not selected. Now, you'll notice a trend here. The ones that were not selected do tend to be shorter, but it's not so much about length as it is about substance. So for example, here in this short answer response, this student clarified a source of passion, and that probably played a role in why the company decided to select her for her project. Not so much about the experience, but that passion, that this is why I want to do this. On this side, on the other hand, you have a student who submitted a short answer response that was in all caps, that had typos, that really focused on how this would benefit them and not what they would be able to do in the project. Same kind of feedback here. This student gave a specific example of a skill or an ability relevant to the project. On the other hand here, the student kind of worded things in a way that were a little vague, didn't give specifics. So you can see those specific examples. It's not how much you write, it's about giving specific examples and really giving them a reason to select you. Something I encourage students to reflect on when they are thinking about their short answer responses is how the company is going to remember them. So I want to show you the company's view. It looks very similar for the company on their end when they're looking at candidates as it does for you when you're looking at opportunities. They're able to see those details and drop down to see your short answer responses, and you can see where the eye goes, what is most kind of important visually here are those short answer responses. So that's why you really want to make sure that you put thought into those. And like I said, what I encourage you to reflect on is how is the company going to remember you? When they ask that project, why do you think we should select you for this opportunity? If you say, you know, I would really put my all into this, I'm really excited about it, and I think I would do a great job. Well, that's great, but there are probably a lot of other students that are writing very similar things, right? They're not going to be having a conversation about it and going, I think we should hire the student who's really excited about it and thinks they would do a great job. That's probably most students who applied. But if you say, I am passionate about this area because when I was growing up, XYZ reason, or because this class and this specific project triggered my interest, or because when I was volunteering at this organization, I learned this fact that really got me interested and excited in this area, then they're going to be like, oh, that's the girl that had this experience at the animal shelter. Oh, that's the candidate that said that they were excited because of XYZ. Give them something specific. And if you're reading your own short answer responses and you're thinking, okay, I'm the candidate that, and you can't come up with something unique, you might want to think about reorganizing or adding something else, some sort of example, something specific to your short answer responses. All right, I see we've got something in the chat here. If you get accepted for 2 micro-internships, can you do them at the same time? Yes, you can, but do not let a fear of getting overwhelmed keep you from applying to multiple micro-internships. So what will happen if you apply for multiple micro-internships? Let's say you get selected for one, you go, awesome, it gets kicked off. If you get selected for another project you've applied to, what we will do on our end is say, oh, okay, we see that Joey's already got one going. So we'll reach out to Joey and say, hey, Joey, we know you're already engaged in one project. This other company wants you. Do you have the bandwidth or are you too busy? And then you have the opportunity to either say, heck yeah, more money, more experience, let's do it. Or say, with classes in this other project, I'm kind of at my edge. I don't think I can take this on. And if you say the latter, no harm, no foul, we just let the company know, sorry, that student is no longer available, and they get to move on to the next choice. So I see another question in the chat. So let's say that we wanted to try out some of these internships, even though we're not majoring in that specific area. Is that acceptable? And how would we affect the personal statement how would that affect the personal statement in the box? Jonathan, how dare you try to do something outside of your range? No, I'm totally kidding. Parker Dewey is a fantastic place to do that. In fact, we have success stories, and I'll share some more of these later with specific examples, but you'll see on our platform, I'm going to jump back here real quick. I eternally have way too many tabs open, so I apologize for that. You'll see on our platform, we specifically do not have a lot in the way of filters. You won't see a major filter here. And that's because we want you to explore. And we found that if we had things like major filters, then people weren't really being open to the different ways that their skills could be applied to a variety of opportunities. So Jonathan, sorry for being jokey about it, but yes, you can entirely look for opportunities outside of your major. In fact, we have a recent story where that happened for this student. They were very open about how their skills could be applied. They were majoring in chemical engineering, but they were like, you know what, I'm interested in some different areas. Let me try this project management kind of micro internship. And it actually led to a full-time job that she is very much enjoying now. So yes, we want you to explore. And if you're looking to do something outside of your major in your personal statement, then I would just recommend focusing on those skills that are transferable. You know, if we go back to, again, sorry, I have so many tabs open and I struggle. To my personal statement, if I wasn't looking to do something specifically in marketing, but I was a little bit more open, I might say, instead of marketing major, I might say junior and then maybe list some different passions related to the types of projects that I'm interested in, but, not pigeonhole myself into one area. And you could list a variety of different passions. So hopefully helps with that question, Jonathan. How many hours is a typical project? Typically, we tend to see somewhere between 10 and 40, but if you hop on the platform, and I encourage y'all to do so, oh my goodness, I always have too many tabs open. Then you're going to see that it really does range. So if we drop down a couple here, we've got a big one here, 100 hours. If we look at this one's 60 hours. If we look at this one's 20 hours. So they really do range. How long does it take to hear back from companies, and where do we check to see if we got approved? Okay, I am going to scoot along with the presentation. Nilesh, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. Don't let me forget to come back to this question, but it should be, like we talked about the short answer responses, coming on up. Next slide even. So navigating the Parker Dewey platform. So up at the top of the dashboard, you are going to see these different areas. I'm going to pull this right next to my presentation real quick, so I stop struggling to find this. There we go. Opportunities is this one right here where you're going to be looking for the different open projects. Anything you see here is currently available, worth your time to apply. Again, even if you see a project that has a start date that has passed, as long as it's here, it's still open. Applied is where you're going to see any projects for which you have applied and are still being considered for. So if you've applied for a project and that project has selected a different micro intern, is no longer considering you for their project, you're going to see it disappear from this section. That's how you will know if you have not been selected. Okay, so to the question, how long does it take to hear back from companies? Micro internships move quickly. These companies are typically looking to get someone on their project rather fast. So we have heard, I refer to the success stories a lot because I feel like it's better for you to hear from these students than from me. For example, this student, she said that she heard back for the micro internship she got the morning after she applied. Now, I will say though, that for the one she got, it was an important distinction because she had applied to some before she completed her profile or without putting real thought into those short answer responses. Those she never heard back from. She did not get those projects, but she clarified the first project she applied to after fully completing her profile and really putting thought into those responses, she got selected the next morning. And just want to say, I'll share the story in case it's of interest. This student found out about a traditional internship because of their micro internship, and they just emailed me this weekend that traditional internship led to a full-time offer. So kudos to her. We're very excited for her. So going back to the platform, this is where you will see any projects that you're still being considered for. This is where you will see any projects that you've been hired for and have not yet completed. Pretty self-explanatory. This next one is pretty intuitive too. This is where you will see any projects you've completed. And if your supervisor has left feedback after your completed project, this is where you can see that feedback. Now, messages, if you have applied for a project, a company may reach out to you with follow-up questions about your application. This is where you will see those messages. Now, you will also get an email notification, whatever email you use to create your account. So make sure when you create your accounts, you're using an email address that you check regularly. That is key. We don't want you to get selected for a project and not find out about it. But this is where messages with questions, follow-ups, I want to schedule an interview, that kind of stuff will show up. Once you are selected for a project, you will be connected directly with the supervisor, and that communication will take place outside of the platform. I see a question asking, do we make our own schedule when working on projects? Also, what happens if we don't finish the project in the amount of hours given? Great question. So the details depend to some extent on the project. Some projects are very much like, here is the project. You have one kickoff meeting. They give you the details, and then you are off to the races working on it. Some projects require a few more check-ins. So those projects that require a few more check-ins obviously will involve scheduling those check-ins and having some sort of schedule established. Those other projects that, there's a holiday card creation one or doing some data analysis. We're looking for some folks to help us with TikTok Reels. That's more of a, here's the project. Do you have any questions? Feel free to reach out if you have additional ones, but otherwise, here's the deadline. So to some extent, it depends on the project. If you don't finish the project in the amount of hours given, we like to clarify the estimated hours are exactly that, estimated, because we have students all the way from first-year students to recent graduates using the platform. And for these projects, it might take a first-year student longer because it's the first time they're doing this type of project, and it might take a recent graduate shorter. So for example, if it took a recent graduate or maybe, an advanced first-year student, 6 hours to do this project, but they turned in a high-quality project, they're still going to get the full payment. And just in that same vein, if it took 15 hours, because this was the first time doing it, they had to kind of train themselves a little bit. They had to get some advice from some other folks, maybe ask a professor, like, hey, I'm not sure how to handle this. Then they would still be paid that $135. The payment is for the project, not the hours. Question from Samantha, do we still have to interview or is it just based on the questions and the resume? Depends on the company. Some will decide to interview and some will make the decision based entirely on the short answer response questions and your profile. All right, so you may be thinking, okay, once I get selected, what happens next? We will send you the kickoff materials, and these include step-by-step resources. So you don't have to worry like, wow, I don't even know where I would get started. Example right here, we've got a micro-internship success checklist, really breaks down first thing you want to do is have a kickoff meeting. We break down what should happen in that meeting. We even have a template for getting that meeting started and how to set it up to make sure that you're coming across as professional. We have resources for making sure that you're setting goals in that meeting. So you are by no means on your own once you get started. We have resources to assist you. You'll also get accounting forms because we want to make sure we can pay you once you're done, terms of use, best practices, all that good stuff. You'll then be connected with the company and can ask your micro-internship supervisor questions at that kickoff meeting. But we like to remind folks, you can also reach out to faculty and staff, connect with alumni, refer to our resources. No man is an island, nor is any micro-intern. So use this as a learning opportunity as long as you are not sharing any confidential information related to your micro-internship project. And if you're ever not sure, is this something I should share or not? Ask your micro-internship supervisor. Trust me, they are never going to be upset that you asked a question. They would be much more upset if you shared information that you weren't supposed to share. Now, if you run into trouble and you need help, we're here to assist too. So we've got your back. You can reach out to us. You'll get all that contact information once selected for a project. And then an important part, once you complete the project, we process payroll once a month, typically at the end of the month. So once you mark your project as complete, we will have it on our radar to process that payment at the end of the month. We also have a whole list of pay FAQs, commonly asked questions, so you can check those out if selected if you have additional questions about pay. All right, so suggestions for on-the-job success. We want to make sure that you are putting your best foot forward. So, check, recheck, and then check your work again, because this is a professional project that has the genuine possibility to impact someone's business. So you want to make sure that you take it seriously. Communication and managing expectations are so unbelievably key. So be honest about expectations. When you have that kickoff meeting, you'll see in that checklist, we encourage you to set milestones so you can make sure that you are on track and meeting expectations as you go along, and be realistic about what you can achieve by each milestone. And if issues do arise, don't hesitate to let the company know, your micro-internship supervisor at the company, and to let us know so we can help. Ask questions, but we do like to clarify when you have questions, take just a beat to see if perhaps the answers are already accessible to you. Sometimes you might be able to find them on the company website or in your notes from a meeting you already have. And just that extra little bit of digging can help you stand out as someone who's going to take extra initiative. But if you can't find the answers, then you shouldn't hesitate at that point to reach out for help. And another important piece that sometimes folks miss is that it's really crucial to focus on the why. What is the bigger picture for your project. How is that company going to use it? Because having that context is really going to help you put your best foot forward with this project, really make sure that you are going to meet the needs of the company and do the best project that you can do. After the project, just like we have a project success checklist, we also have a post-project success checklist. So this is going to encourage you to reflect on what you've learned, review or request feedback if you haven't gotten it yet, to update your resume and LinkedIn. And we've got tips and guides for how to add the experience. We also have a template for sharing your experience on LinkedIn so you can let other people and potential other employers know about what you've done, guidance for asking for a recommendation and for keeping that network strong, and hopefully applying to your next micro internship opportunity. So we've got a lot of resources. Again, at no point in this are you entirely alone. We are here to help. I know I already kind of mentioned some of our micro internship success stories, but if you're interested in reading about how other students have used these projects for their goals, you can read some of these success stories because I find that it's most valuable to hear directly from other students. So I'm sharing those examples in the chat, but you can read a few of these quotes just right here on the screen. So you can see some of these students that mentioned in the earlier slides that they were struggling to get attention at career fairs. Once they did a micro internship, they had something to talk about. I know there were folks that put into the chat, that you want to do some career exploration. Darren in the bottom center was in that same place. Through micro internships, he was able to explore multiple different kinds of environments in one semester. For the student in top right, a micro internship was a great way to facilitate a career pivot. And for the student on the bottom left, getting paid really made this opportunity more accessible for them. So if those sound like things that are going to be beneficial to you, or you can relate to some of these benefits, saying that would really help me out, then micro internships are probably going to be something that would be beneficial for you too. So I do see there are a couple of questions in the chat. I promise I'm not ignoring them. I just want to wrap up here and then we will get to those. If you are thinking, okay, what next? How do I get started? I'm going to put that same link in the chat again that we've had a couple other times. You're just going to head to this page and hit apply for micro internships. And you are going to jump through that same process that we went through together here. Complete that profile. Now I will say there are a couple of common mistakes that I see from folks using Parker Dewey, and I want to caution you against those mistakes right now. One is sometimes we will see students that log on. The first day they log on, they don't see a project that's of interest to them. And they go, I guess Parker Dewey's not for me. And then they never log in again. And that's a mistake because like I mentioned, this is marketed to companies as a way to get students to work on your project quickly. And because there's such quick turnaround, that means that the opportunities that you see on Parker Dewey today are likely different from what you're going to see tomorrow and are almost certainly different from what you're going to be seeing next week. So if you log on today and you don't see projects that interest you, I encourage you, keep coming back because the most successful students really are logging in regularly and applying regularly. Tegan is one of those students that has done, I think, 18 last time I checked micro internships, so many that she's used the money she made to help buy her a puppy. I just love sharing the pictures because it's really cute. And I liked the way that she worded this. She said, it's the same as any search. You're not going to get everyone you apply to. Apply to 10, interview for 2, maybe you get 1. To some extent, it is a numbers game. But she said, what's unique about Parker Dewey is it takes not even 15 minutes to write something up and apply for an opportunity that could have a big impact. So that one mistake is not coming back. So we encourage you, come back and do it regularly. And the other mistake is not fully completing your profile or putting thought into those short answer responses. And we already highlighted that success story with the student who said, I had applied to some, I wasn't getting any. As soon as I did those 2 things, I got selected for a project the next morning. And then that final step, apply to those projects. And again, they move quickly. So if you see something, apply right away. I also encourage y'all to join our Career Launcher LinkedIn group. I'll check any pending requests to join right after we're done with this presentation today. Let me just grab the link for this here. 1 second. And on this LinkedIn group, you'll see various, tips for landing micro internships. You'll see promotions for events like our office hours and those kind of things. We have office hours coming up tomorrow. I need to post something about those on here too. You'll also see highlights for some pretty cool opportunities that we want to make sure folks see. So this is another way to be informed about those opportunities as well. So that is micro internships in a nutshell. So I'm going to jump back now to questions that I missed, and then we'll open it up for additional questions. All right, let me jump to this chat here. What if the project we submitted seemed simple at first, but we later learned it wasn't going to work or was much more difficult than we anticipated? Great question. Now, if the company has done what they should, then you should have an idea of what the project is going to entail from the description. But if you get into it and you're like, oh, this is a horse of a different color. Does Gen Z watch Wizard of Oz? I don't know. Hopefully you get the reference. Then what you can do is reach out to Parker Dewey and say, hey, I thought this was going to be like this. That's an option. What I would do first, though, is have a frank conversation, a respectful but polite conversation, letting the supervisor know, I thought this was going to entail this, but this isn't something that I'm well versed in. And then it depends on what your time frame will allow. If it's something you're interested in learning and it was just a genuine miscommunication, not anyone trying to be shifty, but just you were confused in some way, then you can be honest and ask if they would be willing to educate you on that. Honesty is the best policy. But if it's something where it seems like a little bit bait and switchy, which honestly we haven't seen because we're keeping an eye on these, but if it happens, then you reach out to us and we will be there to support. Do you know if micro internships count towards a specific course? I unfortunately am not familiar with that course, but I imagine that is something that the lovely folks at your institution could help you with. I know that we have had some institutions that have allowed micro internships to count for credit. It depends on the number requirements for your institution, and I would imagine the project itself, since some are shorter and some are longer. Oh, and I see there's an answer from Jan there too. Sorry for being delayed on that. Why do I need to enter my hometown when making an account? The reason for that is because some students go back to their hometown. We're actually going to be updating the wording on that to be permanent address, because what we're interested in is where are you spending your winter breaks and where are you spending your summers, just in case they are using the micro internship as a way to audition talent for a summer internship or a winter internship, in case that summer internship or winter internship would be in person. The micro internship is almost certainly going to be remote, but the following opportunity may very well be in person. So they like to know whether it's reasonable that the student they're selecting would be in a geographical location to be able to take on that opportunity if they're using a micro internship as a way to audition talent for that. It's not relevant in every single project, but it's just something that some companies like to know. If we are to get more than one project, can we name all of them in our resume? Yes, certainly. All of them, you are going to list yourself as an independent contractor of Parker Dewey. But what you can do is you can ask the company, is it okay if I include your name on the resume? And then in the bullet point, you can say, did XYZ, you would use action verbs, obviously, quantify when possible. But you can say for the company name, for one reason or another, a company might prefer that you don't. And in that case, you could describe the company. So instead of saying, XYZ company, you could say for a Fortune 500 industry type organization. So should we put our permanent address down, even if it's not our hometown? Yes, Joey, wherever you're spending your summers or your winter break, it's a great point. We recently did a student user experience walkthrough, and that point was made very clearly. Yes, wherever you're spending your summers or your winter break. Yeah, wherever you were born, that's great, but that was not what we were trying to get at, and we are changing the wording. All right. Any other questions? I love how active y'all have been with the questions in the chat. Please feel free to keep them coming. Sorry if you can hear my dog walking around. She likes to make her presence known sometimes. Oh, let's see her. Emma, you just walked away. Ah, she's fickle. Maybe the cat will make an appearance. All right, I see we've got the poll up asking folks about the level of knowledge for micro internships. So please, for the internship week, let folks know about that. And I'll see if I can find a picture of my dog on Facebook to bring up. Oh, how long after graduation can you be with Parker Dewey? There is no specific limit. So we are open to both current students and recent graduates. So it's not like we'll say, okay, you're 2 years out, you're kicked off the platform. But what I will say is once you are a few years into your chosen profession, you're probably not going to find the projects or the pay on the platform as valuable as you do as a student or as a recent graduate. Companies that come to the platform also use Parker Dewey because they know that they are engaging with students and recent graduates. So students or graduates who are rather far out are also likely to find that they may be less likely to be selected for projects unless they are in a career transition and kind of explain that in their short answer responses. But short answer, Joey, is we're not going to kick you off. There is no formal endpoint.
Okay, we just have a few more people. If you could fill out the survey for us quickly. In the meantime, I would like to say thank you so much to Danielle. She's offered some really great insights into how to register from registering in the very beginning, all the way through working a variety of different micro internships and multiple micro internships. So I love when Parker Dewey comes to speak to our students because you're just so informative. And I think it's very, very productive for us. Luckily, we did live stream this session today, and we will be posting it on our YouTube channel. And so we're grateful that you'll be able to get to catch up. So if there's something that you missed, you can always watch this again and see what elements that you may have missed, because there was a lot of content today. And I appreciate that, that there was, but it'll give you a chance. There you see, Anna's posted our YouTube, a link to our YouTube channel. So you will be able to see that shortly. There's a link to Danielle's LinkedIn. So I'm very happy to have had her today. I do want to let you know that we have 2 more events today, and we have at 2 p.m. we have 2 p.m. we have LA County academic internships. I did open that up, so a few more people can register. We had hit our capacity, but we did open it up. And then in addition, oh, so cute.
That's my Emmy. So for the person who wanted to see the dog, sorry.
Emmy is very cute. And then also at 4 p.m. we have NASA, the NASA ARCS program at CSUN. So I hope you will participate in that. And then also next week on Tuesday, the October 25th, we have our own career fair, our fall career fair. So we hope that you will be coming to our career fair. And if you need to get your resume critiqued beforehand, please come to Resume Makeover tomorrow, and you can register for all of those events through Handshake. So again, thank you, Danielle, for your wisdom and your knowledge. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you all for having me. It was my pleasure.
Okay, bye-bye.